This is our first tribal meeting for November. We're going to be touching on a lot of important stuff today. Introduce myself. My name is Nnakina Xi-Amaru Fears. I am the active CEO of Aboriginal Ministry, and I'll pretty much be handling this meeting today. This tribal meeting today is to provide you all with key updates on national development, review recent changes in taxation policies, and highlight new career opportunities within the Republic. And I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback as well to bring this vision to life. I'm aiming to ensure that, you guys are able to engage with the nation with a better understanding. I know a lot of times people may feel like they just don't know what's going on. So we want to start incorporating these meetings to make sure that you guys are informed on what's going on and how basically your nation is being ran. Updates on nation's development. So first off, we're going to focus on improving access to our services. So that's one of the main focus that we have through the establishment of a walk-in office. So we're hoping to open the Xi-Amaru Republic office locations. And then we have a couple updates in regards to housing projects and potential revenue from those projects in Detroit. And we also have pretty much a proposal when it comes to developing the first community, or we can say the Xi-Amaru Republic Reservation. So that's those are a couple of things that we're going to be talking about today. Opening Xi-Amaru Republic office locations. We are looking to establish our first walk-in office in Tennessee by 2025. Followed by a second location, which will be based on the amount of citizens that will be in the community, and it will be determined by votes and how many people are in that location. The goal is to provide real-time support for tribal members, promote community engagement, and facilitate access to resources. I know that a lot of times are requesting to come in person or would like to have access to locations. However, we don't currently have any walk-in locations. We have a location in Texas currently, Georgia. Yeah, those are our locations. And we do want to set up moving forward offices that people will be able to come in person. So we have a couple budget estimates for those costs, starting with the initial setup cost for the Tennessee office, which would include and keep in mind, this is just a budget estimate. It doesn't mean these are the final numbers, but this is kind of what we're going to be looking at, and hopefully we can stay within the budget or even under. But yeah, so we have the lease for 1 year estimated at $1,500 a month. Then we have to also get our office furniture. We have to include technology setup, signage and branding, office supply, insurance, and initial marketing. So that's the subtotal of that would be $38,800. And then operational costs for the first year. Now, when it comes to this, it's going to be a small branch, and this does not include current salary. This is potential opportunities for new hire that we are hoping to acquire. And so we have an estimated of a staff of 3 to begin with, and that is calculating about $38,400 per employee a year. And then we have the utilities and maintenance, operational supplies, outreach and events, insurance renewal, contingent fund, which is basically just a little emergency fund in case anything occurs. And that would bring us to a subtotal of $133,500. And putting the setup and the operational cost together, we're looking at about $172,300. Believe we will be able to acquire the resources to get this first office up and running. And keep in mind that will be accessible to tribal members and also those who are interested in potentially becoming a part of the nation, and just make sure that we have the resources in place to assist the growth of the nation. And then we have the estimate of the second office. Again, we're not sure where this office will be located, but we will have to make adjustment on the budget based to the structure and the need of the location that will be in place. And we're just taking similar costs from the initial first office, but I'm sure it would have to be adjusted. So initial setup would be about $38,800. Then we're talking about operational costs, which would be $133,500, bringing us to a total of the second office being $172,300. Now, keep in mind that this could be in a different state. It doesn't have to be in the same state, but the goal is for us to at least have 2 walk-in offices available to citizens and nationals by the end of next year. So this is our projection. And then overall investment, you see the grand total of those 2 offices would bring us to about $344,600. And I'm sure you guys are wondering, well, how will we collect the resources, or what's the goal for getting the funding for this? So we have a couple options. And the funding sources basically will be through community taxation. So majority of funding will come from the community revenue that is generated. Then we will also have investor contributions. So engaging potential stakeholders for contributions with partial returns, meaning that, if someone, let's say, wants to be involved in a nation and they want to contribute, we will have a structure where they can put in resources and possibly get a small percentage interest back on that resources within a certain period of time. So that's what we mean by investor contributions. And also governmental or community grants. So researching and applying for community-focused grants will also be a way that we can fund this project. And the last would be phase implementation, prioritizing the Tennessee office, of course. Then the second office base will be, and then based off of that, whatever available funds are available, then we'll go to the next office. So we'll start with the Tennessee office, and then once we have that covered, then we'll move to the second office, but we're not going to do 2 at a time. So that's important to understand. Additionally, our focus is on investing in Detroit. So we've successfully acquired 2 homes up until this point as a nation, and this pretty much marks an important step towards creating housing opportunities for tribal members. Now, this is a small project, but the goal is to potentially acquire more homes where we can facilitate, other tribal members. And it allows us to begin building an economy based on, an economic based on the Republic. However, I do want to mention, due to limited resources that we currently have, we are currently seeking additional funding to complete these projects. Our approach is twofold. So a portion of profit from these projects will support national development initiatives, while another portion will be allocated to investors. So this structure is intended for both growth and the Republic, so that, and also incentivize further investment in community projects. So we have a budget proposal as well. The objective is to make sure that we finish the 2 housing units acquired in Detroit, providing stable housing options for tribal members while generating revenue for the Xi-Amaru Republic. This proposal includes an estimated budget for completion and a forecast of potential earnings through rental income or refinancing. Now, the reason these projects are important is because a lot of times tribal members, and I should have said this before, but there's a lot of areas that we need as a nation that we're not able, or ground, I should say, that we need to cover. as a nation when it comes to having the proper support to provide to tribal members. So the whole point of these projects is to make sure that we are able to generate resources and be able to pour back into the community. So these aren't just projects that are being done to just get money, but it's so that we can have the staffing, have the resources that we need, have the people that we need to conduct research and pretty much continue the advancement that we're doing as an autonomous government. So that is why projects are so important, and not just now, but pretty much in everything. So that's just to clear up why this is here. So we're projecting the costs of repair when it comes to the two homes. As you guys can see, we do need to renovate, and that would be about $40,000 between the two houses. Then you have the electrical and plumbing. Then you'll also have appliance and fixtures. Then we have to do painting and flooring and a couple inspections and landscaping and a little emergency fund as well for unexpected costs. And the subtotal of that would be between the two homes, $92,000, which would be estimating the total completion cost of both homes to be $92,000. So that's important. Now, we do need to, we're not just about to complete these homes. The goal is for us to potentially generate revenue. So we have two options that we've thought about when it comes to how these properties will be able to pour back into the community. So the first one is the rental income. We can potentially rent these out, and that would be, then we're estimating the monthly costs, and we're looking at a total net income once we collect rent, possibly. And then we have the comparisons of annual collection of rent, and that would bring us to a net total of about $28,800 after expenses. So that's basically a good margin where, again, the way this would benefit others is a portion would go towards the nation and a portion would go towards the investors. So that's how these projects are projected to be handled when it comes to the revenue scenarios. And then we have the second option. Now keep in mind, before I move on, rental income provides stable cash flow and supports the Republic, like I said, ongoing initiative, and just making sure that we are able to also have more access to our communities, and giving people more support as well. So that's why we're looking into these options. And then we have option 2 when it comes to revenue scenarios, which would be refinancing for lump sum. So as you can see, we do have the option where you can normally refinance a home. We're estimating based on the local market value right now that per home, we would say it's about $100,000. And then of course the total value between the two homes would be 200. And then combining that, normally you can take at least 80% if approved when it comes to getting refinanced. So let's say we are able to refinance, then we would be getting $160,000 back. And refinancing basically just offers an infusion of funds which could be reinvested in community projects or additional property acquisition. So meaning that we'll be either putting that resource that we collect back into the community project, either another project that we have going on, or possibly just getting more homes and expanding the portfolio of the nation that way. So the financial summary, as you guys can see, so total completion cost is currently not, again, these are two homes, just to recap, it's two homes. Total completion cost to complete both homes, we're estimating about $92,000. Then potential annual rental income that we'll get from that would be about $28,800. And then we'll have potential to also refinance, and that would be $160,000. $160,000. So those are just a couple options that we have. Now, keep in mind that investment benefits for the Xi-Amaru Republic, we're looking to be able to provide stable housing for members. Complete properties will provide safe, affordable housing options. We're going to be able to options for tribal members. So even though we're starting out small, the goal is to still be able to contribute to that. And also, another benefit of this projects like this, and this one specifically, is the revenue generation that it will create. So the choice between rental income and refinancing allows for flexible revenue, either through steady cash flow or capital injection, right? And then the last one, community development. Funds generated can support additional projects within the Republic, including further property investment or essential services. This budget proposal outlines both the cost to complete the Detroit, just to summarize, to complete the Detroit's home that we currently have, and potential income options to pour back into the nation so that we can continue on with the development. I think the most exciting project on the list would be, because I know a lot of times we're all wondering, how can we come together and be in one place? So we're looking ahead, and I would say, we have an ambitious vision to establish the first Xi-Amaru Republic Reservation. And that's going to be a hefty project, but I do believe, coming together as we come together as a nation, as a group, and as people become more informed with what we are doing, this is going to be a community like no other. And this would just be the first, hopefully, of many that we'll create within many different states. But, we do have to start somewhere. And just to make sure that you guys understand what would be the difference between this community and a typical regular community is we will be able to be exercising our Indigenous rights in a way that other communities can't protect themselves. So that's one of the big benefit, I would say, when it comes to us potentially bringing this to life, is being in a location where we are able to control how we govern ourselves in that specific location. So that being said, this reservation will be located in Halifax, North Carolina. That's the plan. The community space will serve as a central hub for citizens. Our goal is for also the ability to provide services and pretty much advance our culture as a people. While the plan is in its early stage, we do recognize the need for skilled professionals and contractors to bring this project to life. And we'll be seeking talent from within our community over the upcoming months to really get this project off the ground. However, we do need to start collecting funding to possibly bring this to life. So we do have a budget proposal on this project, and our objective is to establish a self-sustainable, culture-grounded, economically vibrant community within the Xi-Amaru Republic that enhance the quality of life for all citizens by providing essential housing, healthcare, education, employment, and public safety. Through this development, the Republic will aim to foster economic independency, strengthen cultural identity, and uphold community values, ensuring a secure, supportive environment that empowers citizens to thrive and contribute to a long-term prosperity and self-governance. So we're going to have a couple phases to this project, and it's going to be about 6 phases, starting with phase 1, which would be land leasing and planning. Then we will have phase 2, infrastructure development. Phase 3, housing development, which will include barn-style homes and an apartment complex. Phase 4, business hub, which will, the first goal is to have at least 5 units. Phase 5, community amenities such as grocery store, farm, emergency room, and a birthing center. And also, oh, I missed it, but also along, oh, never mind. It's in the 6, my bad. And phase 6, government headquarters and a tribal law enforcement. So this would be the first structure. Of course, as we move forward, other things can be implemented, but this is specifically the main focus at this moment on having these things on in the community. Of course, phase 1, which is the land leasing and planning. So we are hoping to negotiate a lease agreement for about 30 acres. And this is already secure. We just haven't finalized the numbers. So again, this is just a projected budget, and that we hope to stay within or even under if possible. But again, this is a projected budget. So the goal is to negotiate a 10 to 15-year agreement for the land. And then we also have legal and permits that we'll need for leasing agreements and zoning reviews, environment impact, which would basically mean required for sustainable development, architectural and site planning. So meaning stuff like blueprints, layout, planning for housing, business, and amenities. So that's going to cost us about $30,000 estimated. And subtotal for phase 1, which is the land lease and planning, we're looking at about $65,000 to get that rolling. And then we have phase 2, which is the infrastructure development, starting with basically our roads and paths. So the land, we will need to cut down, of course, when it comes to land, it doesn't mean that it's just open and available. So we will have to do some paving and road access to certain things. And we're looking about possibly $50,000 for that. Then we have to do the water and the sewer system, also the environmental impact study. Then we're going to have to incorporate internet and communications within the community. And finally, landscaping and green space, which basically is hopefully we can develop a park within the community. And that subtotal, we're looking at $240,000 to get that phase up and running and complete. And then we're going to be moving into phase 3, which is housing development. So first, we're going to be looking at, and these things may be happening at the same time, depending on the resources that we have, but we're going to be looking at the homes. So the goal is to have at least 10 to 15 units starting off. And those are going to be barn style housing. And we're looking at about $1,500,000 for that initial investment to get those homes in place to be able to provide them to tribal members. And then we're also looking at, of course, interior finish and utilities, which would be about $100,000, just estimating from current costs. But again, that could go up or it could go down. So, however, we're looking at $1,600,000 to get those units on the land. And then we also want to incorporate an apartment complex, which would be about 20 units. And we're going to be and we're estimating that to cost us about $1,200,000. And then, of course, we're going to need to do the interior finishing and utilities, community amenities. And that's given us about $1,450,000. And the total of that phase to get the housing development completed, we're looking at $3,050,000 to have phase 3 complete. And then we're going to move on to the business hub, which is having at least 5 units available for rent to where either people who are in the community, hopefully, who are in the community can rent. However, we're looking at construction of those units to be estimating about $250,000. And it's going to be a low-rise building for small business operations. So nothing extreme, but just, to give people enough room to conduct business within the community. Then, we're going to have, of course, interior finishing, equipment, business permits, legal fees, marketing signage, things of that nature. Now, keep in mind, as a government, certain things will be required to acquire them from the nation itself. So even though these things are, we said business permits, and we're talking about acquiring some of those things even from ourselves as a nation. So it doesn't mean that those resources are going to be leaving the nation. It's going to be something that we can pour back into our community itself. So that's the beauty of what we do as a nation, and what we're doing now is certain things are not applicable for the outside. It'll just be necessary for us to have in place for ourselves. And just to continue with that, then we also have marketing and signage. So the subtotal for phase 4, we're looking at about $320,000. And then we have phase 5, which is, I think, one of the very exciting parts of this phase is we have community amenities, which starting off with the grocery store. We do want to have a grocery store in the community, which again, all of these resources will be for the nation. So anything that we create together, and anything that I'm talking about right now, is for everyone per se, when it comes to the responsibility of how these resources and how these projects will be handled. So that being said, the grocery store, we're looking at construction for the store to be about $300,000, and we're calculating that to be a small to medium-sized grocery space. Then we'll also need resources for equipment and shelving, inventory stocking. So that'll bring us to about $425,000. Okay, you guys can see the presentation. Okay. Keep in mind, we're not taking any questions until the end. So if you just came in, keep all your questions till the end. If you need to leave, we definitely understand. If you're having issues and you've already joined the meeting, make sure to go ahead and leave and then come back in. You'll still be able to join the meeting today. And then we have in community amenities, the farm development. So we're estimating about 30,000 for the land preparation. I mean, 30,000, yeah, for the land preparation and fencing. And then, we also have to do the agriculture. We have to acquire agriculture equipment and also develop a greenhouse and seeding investment. We're going to also have to pay for farm staff training and salary. Now, keep in mind, this is just a small projection of the initial startup fee. Of course, our goal is to be able to pay our farmers a lot more than that, but that's just the initial cost, estimating it within maybe, I would say, the first couple of months. And the initial cost for that, we're looking at about $100,000 to get that moving. And then we have also in community amenities, an emergency room. So keep in mind that in this location, they actually don't have an emergency room. So that means that we will have a great potential to serve our community, but also give access to the other community as well, communities around us, and be able to generate resources that way. So initial cost of construction is about $400,000 we're going to be looking at. And then, of course, we're going to need to get our medical equipment and supplies, which we're estimating to be about $100,000. And salary for medical staff. Now, again, this would just be for the first round. And we're talking about a small staff here. So that's why the numbers is what it is. But of course, the goal is as we grow, we'll be able to support more and get more people employed. But for now, we're talking about maybe a staffing of 2 or 3. So we're not going to be taking in a lot of people. So even though we're saying emergency room, keep in mind we're starting, right? So that being said, then we'll also need to pay for permits and certificates. And the subtotal for the emergency room, we're looking at $610,000 for that initial startup phase. And then we have finally, for this phase, we're going to have a birthing center facility. I think as a mother myself and many women in our community, I think struggle with finding the appropriate support. So we do want to help mothers because, again, what's a nation without having more babies? So we have to make sure that we are bringing life into this nation in a way that we all are comfortable and families feel supported. So the goal is to have a birthing center facility, and we're estimating a cost for the construction being about $300,000 to develop the facility, to construct the facility. That would be the facility for prenatal, delivery, and postpartum care. That's the goal for what that birthing center would be. And then we'll also need, of course, to acquire medical equipment. So stuff like delivery beds, maybe one or two tubs, and a pool, or pools, and other equipment and supplies. And again, this is just about estimating for the first startup costs. When it comes to having our coverage for staff, we're looking at about $150,000 in that first initial phase. And then, of course, the licensing and permits. So that will bring us, for this project, this phase, about $560,000. And that's just, again, that's an estimate. But of course, the goal is for us to be, like I said, within this range. Under would be better, but again, it could be a little more. So it really just depends. And we're looking at a total for phase 5, which is the community amenities. We're looking at about $1,695,000. So to get phase 5 up and running, meaning again, the birthing center, the farm, the grocery store, the emergency room, those things. Again, that's $1,695,000 to get that project up and running. And last but not least, we're talking about our phase 6, which would be needing a government headquarters and implementing a tribal law enforcement on the reservation. So we're looking at an estimate to develop a medium-sized building, which would bring us to about $800,000, having multiple floors within the facility for office and meeting rooms. This is, again, we still need, right now, we are still a small staff. So the nation itself, we currently have a staffing of 4 with only 1 full-time employee, which is myself. And then we have 3 part-time employees. So having these things in place, we'll be able to run the departments a lot more efficiently when it comes to what we need, and be able to just be more on hands when it comes to getting things done within our community for our people and so forth. And moving forward, as always, we will need office furniture for office finishing, furnishing. Electrical will also need to be done, so that'll bring us to about $150,000. Then we're talking about technology and equipment, which means, IT infrastructure, computers, security systems. We're estimating that to be about $75,000, followed by, of course, permits and compliance that will need to be in place. And then we have the tribal law enforcement. So we also want to develop a small facility for law enforcement, because we do need to make sure that as we are operating in the land, that we have protection, right? So we do need to create that as well. So that'll be about, estimating for that facility, $200,000. Then we're going to need to also have patrol vehicles, communication equipment. We also want to provide uniform and basic law enforcement tools to our law enforcement team. So we're estimating that to be about $100,000 investment, and followed by salary for the initial officers and administrative support, meaning they also need to get paid. So we're looking, and again, this is just the initial start. So we're still talking about maybe a small team of 3 to 4, right? 3 to 4. So we're looking at about 200,000 for that. And that'll be subtotal for the government headquarters and the law enforcement. That'll be about $1,540,000 to get phase 6 up and functioning. So to recap, let me go back. To recap everything, we have a total estimated budget for full project, which is again the first Xi-Amaru Republic community/reservation. And again, we talked about phase 1, which is again the land lease and planning, which is $65,000. Phase 2, which is infrastructure development, we're looking at about 240,000. And then we're talking about phase 3, which is the housing development part of the project, which is estimated to be about $3,050,000, followed by phase 4, a business hub, which is $320,000. Then we have phase 5, which is community amenities, including stuff like grocery store, farm, emergency room, and birthing center. That's estimated to cost us about $1,695,000, followed by the final phase, which would be phase 6, which is the government headquarters and tribal law enforcement. That is estimated to cost us $1,540,000. So the grand total we're looking at for this project, which is again our community, the first one we'll have officially as a nation that would be autonomous, estimating cost is $6,910,000. It's a lot of numbers we were talking about. So we definitely have to come up with how are we going to pay for these things, right? So we have a couple funding and investment strategies that I'm going to be going over. Community taxation. So utilizing you guys contribute that we collect to support capital incentive phases. Then we're also going to be looking into grants, so government grant programs, and seeking, grant related to Indigenous community development, rural healthcare, sustainable agriculture, and administrative infrastructure. Then we're also going to be using private investors and partnership. This means collaborate with stakeholders interested in generating income from housing and commercial facilities. So again, this could be someone who's not even in the nation, but maybe they want to put resources in. Those options will also be available. And then finally, tribal bonds and crowdfunding, which is explore community-based funding initiatives for additional support. And then we have revenue opportunities. So once all of this is in place, how will it generate money and pour back into the community? We're expecting the housing income to be affected. So rental revenue from barndominium style homes and apartment. We're going to be hoping for the rental income, which will be profits from the grocery store and farm surplus, meaning any additional produce or products that come from the farm, that we could also sell that to other communities when it comes to generating revenue for the community. And then, of course, the healthcare fees, affordable fees for ER and birthing center services will also be a way we generate revenue. And then the office rentals, leasing opportunities also within the government building for agencies or partners. And this budget basically demonstrates a comprehensive plan for us to build a sustainable community with essential amenities and economic opportunities. Now, keep in mind that each development project within the Xi-Amaru Republic is designed to directly benefit citizens. Again, by creating, like I said, we want to make sure that we have self-sustaining, that we're creating a self-sustaining, supportive, and economically viable community. And here's how we're going to do that, because I'm sure you guys are asking, like, well, what's the benefit of all of this? So starting with the housing development, right? The benefit of the housing development will have affordable and stable housing opportunities within the community, which providing citizens with affordable housing options helps ensure stability and improve overall quality of life. Citizens have secure plans to live within the community, and just fostering a stronger sense of belonging. Because I think a lot of times too, even though we can have homes in different places, which again, you're not going to be limited to the community itself, even though you are a tribal member. This doesn't mean that you're not going to still have access to the nation. It just means that we're going to have one, at least the first starting point. And then we have the rental revenue and investment in the community. Then we also have culture cohesion and community building. So basically living within a shared community just nurtures a stronger collective identity with neighbors supporting one another. That's the goal. This setup is especially beneficial for culture and community events, which plays a key role in strengthening cultural identity, versus if we have something where so many people have to travel because, we're all in different places. If we have a community like this, then, although I'm sure other tribal members who live outside of the community would still want to participate, but for the most part, those that would be within the community won't have to deal with the burden or those expenses that they would have to pay if they had to travel. So just giving us that understanding. And then we have the business hub. So the benefit of the business hub, basically the goal is to, for job creation and entrepreneurship opportunities. So by offering commercial space, the business hub will create room for local business to operate, providing jobs for citizens who are in the nation and encouraging entrepreneurship within the community. Now, citizens can start small businesses such as because I'm sure you guys are asking, like, what type of stores will be able to be put there. And the type of businesses, that we're going to be looking for, of course, we would love to have holistic businesses and essential businesses within the community to begin. So potentially retail stores, office, and other businesses that would contribute. And again, this would just be the first step. This doesn't mean we're limited to this. This is just our initial project, which would be 5 units. But of course, as we grow, we may create more, right? And then, of course, convenient local services. The business that sets up, whoever chooses to acquire these local, they'll be able to provide access to goods and services within the community, which would reduce the need for us to travel outside for essential services. And then, of course, it also creates economic growth. So the hub will allow for potential rental income and potential income. And I would say, additional sales from locally owned businesses just strengthens the economy by financial transaction within the community. So us being in one place, or our people being in one place, although again, we don't want our people to feel like they're limited to be in one place, but we do want to be able to provide the opportunity for us to choose. So that's really what this is coming down to, is a choice, because again, we are free people. So we don't have to necessarily live in one place to have our rights and have support in that. But this opportunity would just be great for us to be able to be in a community where we are pouring back into ourselves as a group. And follow that up, the benefits for a grocery store, I'm sure you guys already know, but just to go over it, food security and access to fresh produce. Right now, a lot of food is contaminated, and us being able to have our grocery stores and have a grocery store that, of course, is being offered fresh resources from our farm is going to be very beneficial for our health as a community. And it also, the grocery store will also be providing job opportunities. So maybe let's say, some of us may have teenagers, and giving them an opportunity to work within somewhere that we all are able to protect them and guide them as they learn to this new path to life, having those opportunities available in the community for them and others, who may just want to participate in that as well. And also revenue for community projects. So having the grocery store, the profits generated from the grocery store can be reinvested back into the other community projects, providing long-term support for our growth as a community. And then, of course, the farm development, very beneficial. The food production and self-sufficiency, we're going to also be able to do, have educational and employment opportunities, so the farm can provide agricultural training and jobs, teaching sustainable farming techniques that could be valuable to younger generations. So, us having this farm would be a great way just to make sure that our children are learning the importance of food, because one of the biggest issues that we see in today's society is access to good produce is really a real concern. So us having our own farm will be able to eliminate some of those issues. And then also, the revenue through surplus sales. Having a farm, like I said before, any surplus produce can be sold to the communities around us. This will also connect the Republic to neighbor communities, like I said, and this would be like, trading. That's really what it's going to come down to, because of course, if we have a farm that, people are like, this is a organic, like so much organic produce and all of that, of course, they're going to want to also be able to access that. So it's going to be a great way for us to acquire resources from outside of the community, not just within. Then we have the emergency room, of course, immediate access to medical care, being able to give our people access to urgent medical services, which is especially important in emergency cases, instead of having to travel to distance hospitals or just have to deal with probably just staffing that aren't as understanding to your needs. So us having one for ourselves is will make a very great impact on our development as a nation. And then, improve health and safety, job creation, and so forth. Then the benefit, of course, of having a birthing center, culture sensitive maternity care. A lot of times people are scared nowadays, especially people like us, they don't feel comfortable having kids anymore due to the fact that there is such a high risk within certain facilities, especially with the high rate of certain things when it comes to this particular area. So this will basically just give mothers a more secure feeling when it comes to being able to bring their children into this world and feel confident knowing that they have people around them that understand them and so forth. And then, of course, convenience and comfort. Well, that's basically what I was talking about, convenience and comfort for families. Employment for healthcare workers. So again, we have people who are in we have many people who are skilled doulas, who are skilled midwives, but being able to have them in a location fully accessible to our community, and even for those tribal members who are not, at least just knowing that they have a point of reference will make such a great impact and benefit when it comes to even deciding if you're going to be extending your family. So that's really one of the beauty, I think, about this opportunity. Then, of course, we have what's the benefit of having a government headquarters. I mean, there's so many, because, I think a lot of you guys experience already the desire to be able to come in person when it comes to certain questions that you may have about your current personal experiences or whatever it is that you're dealing with within the other jurisdiction. Just knowing that you can come to the location itself will be for so beneficial, having having an official headquarters. So keep in mind, right now we have Aboriginal Ministry of Justice. Aboriginal Ministry of Justice is a organization that we are using as we develop our nation. So we still need to have a headquarters for the Xi-Amaru Republic. So that's what we're talking about here. And stronger governance and community engagement as well, because we don't currently have a headquarters specifically like this one. We don't really have a strong engagement currently, that allows you guys access to leadership, and especially because we just have so many things that we have to handle, that it just doesn't give the support or the ability for you guys to engage where I'm sure many of you desire to. So having the headquarters in the community is going to be a real game changer when it comes to our development as we continue to move forward building this government. And of course, having more job creation, so opportunities for staffing, people who want to contribute, people who want to continue to participate in the advancement of law and so forth, can take on roles within the government and also, provide a living for themselves and their families. So that's a big one as well. And then finally, the benefit of tribal law enforcement. I mean, this one I think we all are very would be looking forward to have, which is safety and security. The presence of a dedicated law enforcement team that understands us, and just having people in place that we know are able to protect us in a way that we just haven't been able to protect ourselves is going to play a big role in having that in the community. That being said, having this on the reservation or in the community, like I said, it'll just bring us so much peace, I'm sure, as a people, when it comes to knowing that we have proper support. Because again, you can have a community, but if you aren't able to police yourself, and deal with the things that are affecting you, and deal with people, again, who understand what we are dealing with, versus having people from outside come in and have to deal and take care of those issues, it's just not the way, free people want to live. So we want to be able to handle our own affairs as a people. And of course, understanding the importance of us keeping unity within the community. And this would just be more so, hopefully, as a protection for the community, but may we not need to use them that much is what I'm really trying to say, that we are able to live civilly amongst each other, and just know that we have protection there when needed. But for the most part, there's so much benefit to having this in place, and that I think that's what separates that's what's going to separate community from a typical development, is we are able to lawfully put these things in place and have them respected, and not have other jurisdictions challenging our rulings or the way we're trying to live. So that's the beauty, I think, about us and what we're doing together as a people right now. And then of course there's still so much benefits, but let's keep going because there's still a lot. And finally, we have the benefit of the community infrastructure, which is roads, utility, green space. We want to improve accessibility and connectivity. So again, for us to be on this land, we're going to have to pave roads. We're going to have to develop our own system. And again, this is where the police, law enforcement part will come in to be important, because once we develop our roads, once we develop the things within our community, we're going to need people to monitor that, right? So we want to make sure that we have the necessary things in place to protect our community. So these all go hand in hand is basically what I'm saying when it comes to creating a life and a future that we all want, that we all can enjoy. Today, I just want to put it this way. The approach, I would say, for this model of sustainability, community-driven development is to really just honor the culture values and provide opportunities versus our people having to consistently look for a job outside of their community, and and dealing with businesses that don't necessarily understand us versus just dealing directly with the community. Like this would be such a game changer for us, and like I said, may it be just the first of many. But that being said, let's move on to taxation updates. And again, I apologize, guys. I know I'm pushing past time, but all of this is very important to go over. But before we move into the next part of our meeting, I do want to, I would like to take a moment to recognize a few tribal members who have gone above and beyond in contributing to the nation's growth without being asked. They have either made one-time payments or recurring payments, and it has meant a lot to us, because again, no one is obligated. Once you take your service, that's pretty much all you have to do up until this point. But these individuals have taken it upon themselves and took the initiative and either personally reached out or just found the way to do it. And that being said, we have Mr. I don't know if everyone's here, but we have Mr. Madison, Mrs. Campbell, we have Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jason Xi-Amaru, and also Mr. Hunter Xi. We are deeply grateful for the support that each of you guys provide, and I hope you're here. If you're not here, it's okay. If you are, wave to us. But like I said, we definitely are grateful to and your contribution, I just want to say, has not gone unnoticed, and we thank you along with your families for your dedication and ongoing commitment to our community. So again, people like you are the reason why we do what we do. And again, and also every other tribal member, whether it's through a service that you guys contribute to the growth of this nation, we cannot do this without you. So I think it's very important to let that be known. Now, that being said, we have a goal. We have a goal of a system that will basically work for everyone. It's going to be the Xi-Amaru Republic tier contribution. So this is not only to foster, so keep in mind that this system we're going to be introducing is designed to fund essential projects across the Xi-Amaru Republic in a way that directly benefits everyone. So this tier contribution model replaced traditional taxation. So we're going to try to make a system where it's more flexible approaching, allowing each of you to choose how to support in the community based on your own financial comfort, right? So this will be considered monthly tribal contribution plan, and it will be divided into 6 tiers, suited different financial abilities and level of commitment. And keep in mind, this is going to be, again, something that you can contribute to on a monthly basis. However, it doesn't limit you. If you decide that, you want to do more, you can always donate to the nation. And we're going to provide you guys with more details on those upcoming weeks. But that being said, let's get into this tier plan. So we have 6, like I mentioned, the first tier being community supporter, which would be a $10 fee that you pay on a monthly basis. Then we have tier 2, which would be considered builder, which would be $25 a month, followed with tier 3, advocate, which is $50 a month. Then we would have tier 4, patron, which is $100. Then 5, which is founder, $250. and tier 6 visionary 500. Now keep in mind that even though these are the monthly fees, we will also have available options where, let's say you may want to contribute more, but you may need a little more flexibility. Our goal is to make however you want to give as easy and possible for you. So even within the amounts, you will have options to break those things down. But that being said, I'm sure you guys want to know, well, what's going to be the benefits and what's going to be included in these. So starting with tier 1, community supporter, which would be, again, $10 a month. The project focus will be foundation for essential services, right? Then we have what you'll be contributing towards will be basically upkeep for the 2 homes in Detroit, in Detroit, an emergency fund for small community needs. So again, these tiers are designed to go directly towards whatever it is you want to support. Or what you can also afford, right? And then you have the benefit of this. What you're going to gain is access to monthly project updates and priority announcement on the Republic's projects. So you're going to, we're going to work to keep you informed and so forth. Then you have tier 2, which is builder for $25 a month. The project focus will be housing and infrastructure development. Then, what your contribution will go towards will be supporting the development of the barn style housing units and renovation on Detroit properties to make them habitable for tribal members. And the benefit that you're going to gain by opting in for this option will include community supporter benefits, of course. So the first one, on top of plus invites to quarterly virtual town hall on housing and community development progress. So keep in mind, tribal meetings, we're going to have tribal meetings, which will be general, but then we're going to start breaking down meetings so that we can be more effective in planning and so forth. So certain things, certain people will not have access to. This will simply be depending on your contribution and how you want to be involved in a nation. So whatever tier you decide, keep that in mind. Tier 3, which is advocate, which would be $50 a month. And the project focus for this tier would be health and wellness initiatives. So your contribution will go towards development of essential healthcare facilities such as the emergency room and birthing center. And the benefit will be, of course, all the previous benefits mentioned before. So you'll have access to everything from tier 1, 2, and then these additional benefits, which would be a yearly progress report on health and wellness projects. So we'll make sure to keep you informed. And then we have tier 4, which is Patreon, which is $100. And the project focus for that would be community and economic development projects, sorry. And the contribution towards, and your contribution towards this will be basically invested in key facilities, including a grocery store that we are planning to develop, construction and farm development, creating job opportunities and food access for the community. The benefit will include advocate benefits, early invitation to community forums, and ability to submit project ideas for consideration. Because I know a lot of times, you guys have ideas, you guys have things that you may want to do. So we want to make sure that we're able to focus on the group in a group way for these things. So that's going to be very important. If you want to have your voice used in that, then go ahead and consider tier 4 so that we are able to facilitate you and be able to get those projects moving and take, those things into consideration. Followed with tier 5, which is founder. So that'll be $250 a month. And this will focus on the reservation and headquarters development. So these resources that would be collected will be going towards financing the initial stage of the Xi-Amaru Republic Reservation in Halifax, and then planning costs for the government headquarters. And the benefit will include Patreon benefits, recognition as a foundational contributor, and the opportunity to join biannually project strategies sessions with Republic leaders. So this basically will give you access to, again, quarterly invites where we're going to come together and discuss these specific things and making sure that we are creating the vision, and and also holding leadership accountable when it comes to these investments. So this is a big one when it comes to if you are someone who wants to be able to contribute in this way. We would love to have you as a founder. And keep in mind that the goal is, once this continues to get developed, we'll also, if you desire, have a featured page for our founders to be displayed, where people can, get to know you guys a little bit as well. So that, there's a couple additional things that are included in that, but that's basically primary what it's going to do. And then finally, we have our tier 6, which is visionary, which would be $500 a month. And the project focus is on long-term strategy and projects and visionary growth. So your contribution will go towards major projects like the apartment complex construction, long-term planning for additional reservation lands, and flagship initiative for sustainable growth. And the benefit that you'll gain by opting into this tier is all the previous benefits, of course, so everything that we mentioned before, plus a dedicated annual strategy meeting with Republic leadership, VIP status at events, and personalized updates on high impact projects. So how your contributions support project goals and community growth, I'm sure you're asking. So one, it will empowering self-sufficiency. So contributions from all tiers directly finance projects that reduce reliance on external resources, fostering a self-sustained, thriving community. So yes, although we know that there's access available, and there are resources outside of the government or outside of us, we as a people who are practicing autonomy, talking about self-development and government, we also have to put a leg in the race. So although, because I know a lot of times when people hear tribes and all of this stuff, they're only thinking about what they can gain and not what they can give. And I think one of the most, I think as a people, there's nothing more rewarding than knowing that you poured into something. So yes, although we do want to access, and we will access resources and contributions from outside, it's very important that we as a people make it a priority to also contribute to ourselves, because how could we be considered a autonomous government when we aren't even comfortable with pouring into our own system? Right? So why would other people pour into us? So this is really why it's important for us to understand why these things have to be incorporated and why we should participate in this step. There are, like I said, more resources available, and we will go into those conversations at a later time. However, for us to develop a government, and I would say this is what separates our nation from anything that we may have experienced in the past, is everyone's waiting for the land. Everyone's waiting for the next step. But the goal for us as a nation is to understand that we have today, we have now, we have our energy. So although we can access other things, it's important for us to not sit by and wait. We can contribute and we can develop, and at the same time, as we grow, people will see the efforts that we're making ourselves and come along and just contribute regardless. So however, we can't wait for other people to come and do this work for us. And also, the support of these contributions will align with key initiatives. Like we said before, each tier aligns with projects, so from housing and essential services to economic and long-term growth, allowing each of us to contribute meaningfully to the future. So however we want to contribute, we can, and however, our resources allows, then we have the option to do that versus just not doing anything. And then, to finalize, this update contribution plan pretty much emphasize direct alignment is what I'm going to say. The difference between having a regular tax system, because again, we've all been a part of systems where it just feels like everyone just takes away from us. So we're trying to create a system where we understand, what, no one needs to take, no one needs to force. I'm a free person. I can make adjustment to my own life and see what I can do, what my family can do. And that's how I show up in society. So this isn't just about us being free. This is about us making informed decisions as individuals, as families, on how we can pour into our systems and not feel like we have to be handcuffed to do something. So we're trying to implement something that's more flexible and more understanding when it comes to development. And I do think that this system is a great approach when it comes to making sure that we are contributing at the same time, not feeling burdened, because let's say, unfortunately something happens. Now you don't feel the stress of, oh my God, this is the end and someone's going to come and get me, So we're just trying to build something that will be make a long-term impact, but at the same time give us the goal, fulfill the goals that we have put in place. So then followed by that, we have, I'm sure you guys also are saying, how does well, I kind of went into that already, but how does contribution system works better than traditional taxation, which is basically what I was just talking about, is the flexibility now of you not feeling like, so it's basically, let's see, let me make it more simple. So this system, again, it aims for fair and flexible funding community growth while empowering each and every one of us, unlike a traditional tax system, meaning that we are voluntary contribution, like we have voluntary contribution options. Unlike standard taxes, tier system is voluntary, meaning you choose if and how you contribute based on your financial comfort. So this flexibility basically accommodates varying income levels while still supporting our initiative as a nation. And then you also have direct project impact. So each tier directly supports specific projects. So, sometimes people feel like, oh, I pay taxes, but I have no clue where it goes. This direct impact basically supports us in knowing exactly where we're pouring and how we're pouring. So making sure that you guys feel empowered and understand what you're pouring into. And also, it also engage in ownership. So the tier structure gives you guys, or gives citizens, I would say, of the Xi-Amaru Republic, who are Xi-Amaru Native Americans, it gives us the role in shaping our future by aligning contributions with projects that we value the most. So it's not just because someone says do this, you do this. You're choosing, how do I want to shape? So when we look back, you can say, yeah, as a citizen back in 2025, I was pouring into this, and now I see this result. And you can basically show your history to the future generation and really explain how that made an impact and how you contributed to X position directly, because for hand how you did it and how you decided to contribute. So it's all about empowering versus the sense of ownership, like I said, where you feel I just have to do this, right? And recognition and benefit, I would say early tier includes specific perks, and you also get, access, because again, I know a lot of times when we give money, we want to know where it's going. We want to know what's being done. Right now, because we have such short staffing, we haven't been able to keep up with certain communication. So being able to have these resources available will be able to better serve you and your needs and your family desires versus certain things just not being handled. So having these contributions in place will really help us to develop the system that we need to properly participate in self-governance. And of course, there's so much more, but let's move on a little bit now. Career opportunities. So we did talk about all these projects that we mentioned earlier. There's going to be career opportunities, meaning that we hopefully, as we collect resources, we'll be able to employ people, whether it's in Detroit when it comes to finishing projects, or again, even keep in mind, our goal is, even if you can't directly contribute, you may be able to volunteer your time. You may have a skill that could serve the nation. So we're going to be opening up in the next couple of weeks the opportunities where you'll be able to submit your skills and experience and basically let us know what we're working with when it comes to the nation, and work on positioning you on how you want to either contribute or volunteer your time on future projects. So keep that in mind. But that being said, currently the Xi-Amaru Republic government operations, or in this case, Operational Ministry of Justice operations, are really underfunded, just to make it simple. Like I said earlier before, we have a small team with just a staff of 4, and we have 1 full-time employee, which, like I said, is myself, and we have 3 part-time team members, which limits our ability to fully serve the needs of our growing community in a way that we need to. So, however, we're hopeful that this success of our new tier contribution system will be able to expand our team and establish essential roles within our government. Keep in mind that we were going to be selecting official roles. However, due to the economy, ours and outside, we don't think it's the appropriate time right now for us to directly put anyone in position as of yet, because it will be such a demand when it really comes to, we do want to be able to properly compensate our officials and those who do decide to take on these roles. So the goal is for us to get the resources and be able to have people not just volunteer their time, but people that we can hold accountable when it comes to how they're showing up in our nation. Because if someone's volunteering, and again, I do think we all are beautiful people here, but someone volunteering their time, and let's say it's a big project, they do have the option to say, this isn't that important, no one's paying me. So we don't want to deal with that. We want to deal with people where we can say, I've contributed to this. I know this is what goes towards this. So how do I get a report on this? And that's what politics is all about. That's what government is all about, is being able to hold people who hold public office accountable. And having people just volunteer their time for positions is just not going to, we're just not going to see the growth that we need. So to avoid that, we're going to be postponing selecting officials at this time. But we do hope that as we grow, and as we incorporate all these new things, that we will be able to develop our nation in a way that continues to grow. But job opportunities will be available, like we mentioned, when it comes to the first offices that we're going to need. Once we start getting the resources for that, we're going to need to employ people to work at these locations. So those opportunities will be available to tribal members. We're not going to be hiring anyone outside the nation for any roles. So or hopefully we won't need to, because we can have desires on what we want to do, but hopefully, we have people in the community and in the areas that can hold these roles once they are available, or these job opportunities once they are available. And that's pretty much it. And just some additional remarks, because we will be taking questions in a few short minutes. But again, updates regarding the flag creation. So we have only had one, I think, tribal member submit possibly a request for the flag. So unfortunately, we're going to not be taking any more requests, because the time frame is just not doing it, and we're going to hire someone on the inside, or we're going to hire someone directly within the nation to do that. Unfortunately, this didn't go as planned. We really wish that it was people, or that we currently had people in the nation who may have wanted to be the history maker in that. But you guys pretty much put us in position where we have to make some important decisions so that our nation can continue to grow. So we do realize that the best way to handle this is going to be moving forward with us getting the appropriate person in place and getting that done so that we can keep going. And like I just mentioned, the official position selection has been postponed. We'll notify you guys. Hopefully sometime within the next couple of months, we can further talk about putting officials in place. But as of now, that is on pause. And meeting recording will be published publicly the following week. So this meeting, again, now I do want to mention, it's never guaranteed that a tribal meeting will be available, but because this meeting was so important when it comes to, and it doesn't really include any sensitive details, this information will be made public so that those who weren't able to attend will be able to watch it. And those of us who did attend will be able to go back in case we missed something. So be on the lookout for communication in regards to that upcoming next week. And the next monthly meeting is, not the next, but the first monthly meeting. So this is something that we are incorporating where citizens themselves. So again, you keep in mind, we have two status within the nation. We have tribal members who are nationals, and we have tribal members who are citizens. Citizens are those who go through the citizenship procedure, get their paperwork and their credentials, and they normally have a lot of questions. So our monthly meetings will be now moving forward the second Monday of every month. And unless, we advise you guys that it was canceled or something like that, for the most part, it's going to be the second Monday of every month. And this will be where tribal members will basically, citizens will be able to ask questions. So tribal meetings, it's not focus on personal questions about your status. So these meetings that we're having today, or this meeting that we're having today, they're focusing on projects and things that are happening within the nation. Save tribal questions concerning your status and things of that nature for monthly meetings. And for those who are not citizens, have questions before they move forward, set up an appointment, get in touch. We are working to provide more details and more information as we continue to grow that will be just, accessible to you. But for the most part, just reach out that way. These meetings, again, are focusing on what we're talking about today. So please keep that in mind. And the next tribal meeting, which will be November 27th at 10 a.m. So it's going to be at 10 a.m. So make sure and keep in mind, if you need to come in without your cameras, make sure that you have been approved for the meeting, because we don't want, even if you may come in, there's no guarantee that you will be allowed to stay in the meeting without your camera unless you have been approved an exception. Okay, and if you either are disabled or whatever the reason, or you need exceptions for your job, make sure you're on that list and you are able to attend without your cameras. But for the most part, those of us who are here have to show up on camera for the meeting. And that pretty much concludes my part. Now we're going to be taking questions. And here, before we get started, before you start, remember to raise your hand when you're going to be asking a question, and you will be called on. You're allowed one question at a time per member. And today we're only taking about 6 questions. Okay, so and pay attention in case someone may ask a question you may have. Do not, and please, 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 do not take up the time today to ask irrelevant questions or questions that are not related to this meeting. Do not ask questions that are not related to this meeting. If you have any personal inquiries, reach out to us another time. Okay? Okay. So I'm going to be opening up the floor and you will be called on. And let's see here. So see, hand is up. I don't know who went first, but we're going to go with Darnell. Mr. Jaguar, go ahead with your question.
Hey, my question is, I saw for the land, not the land, sorry, for the walking office in Tennessee, you have a timeline, and you want to collect all your funding as much as you can by 2025. What about the reservation and the other further projects?
That's a great one. So we are estimating, so we're going to start collecting. So you guys will be able to contribute because we do need, the sooner we start collecting, the sooner we'll be able to make advancements. So we will start collecting on these projects, but the goal is to have the reservation. Hopefully, we want to have enough resources that we can start projects next year. But the completion of these projects, we're looking for possibly within 3 to 5 years when it comes to the community. If we get all the resources, and hopefully sooner than that, but the goal is for us to have the resources and start on these phases. But the timeline for the offices, because we do need walk-in offices and we do need more boots on the ground. Like we said, we want to have at least 2 walk-in offices by the end of next year. 1 in Tennessee and 1 in, depending on where citizens decide to vote and how many are in that area, we're going to make the second office that location. And basically also will be responsible for training and preparing them to basically serve the community within certain things as well. So hopefully we can get all of that done. And I see, Amasi, you have your hand up.
Everybody. Hey, my question is, you kind of answered it in twofold, saying that our payments for the tier is going to kind of start right away, and hopefully by next week. Will we be able to pay them? Is there going to be options within that payment, monthly versus yearly payments? So we won't have to, especially those if doing $10 a month, you may want to just do 6 months in advance or even a year in advance. Well, one question at a time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. That's a good one, though. So yes. So when it comes to our goal is to provide as much flexibility for tribal members to be able to contribute. So whether so we're gonna have you're gonna have breakdowns within those tiers, which is like you said, where if you want to be able to contribute that maybe on a yearly basis, but we're just giving you right now the standard on what to expect. So it's going to be monthly, but you can choose options within that breakdown. So yes, ma'am. And Mr. JS, you can go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing today?
Who's JS?
I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to change my name.
We have instructions.
Yeah, and I couldn't get it on because I have my computer. It's a long story. Anyway,
go ahead.
So I'm sure, like everybody else, I got a bunch of questions, but I think my most pertinent question is with the tier. Okay, so it's going to be taxation, and you guys are making it flexible with the tier program, which is great. Is there like a set amount that's expected to be given as taxes or to the nation, or is it kind of is there not? Is it based off of your income? What is it anything like that?
Mhm. Great one. That's a good one. So we're trying to give our community the benefit of the doubt, where we actually believe that our people can make informed decisions from their viewpoints. We don't want to enforce anything, and this is something that me and my team discussed before, because we were considering that. But we do understand that the systems that we have been a part of kind of put us in a position where we feel trapped, right? So our goal is to make sure that our people, now again, people are going to be people, but we hope that with this tier program, implementing it as our tax program, actually be something that each and every one of us can decide on our own how we want to contribute. We don't want anyone to feel forced based on their tax bracket. And again, some people may just really not be able to contribute. So we also don't want them to feel like they won't have access if they don't. But again, it will come down at this point. Now, we may have to reevaluate depending on how this performs, on if it's going to be enough. But I do have hope that our people can see the benefit in this and work with us as we develop this system this way. And we don't have a time frame on how long we will implement this or if it will stay this way, but I hope that we can maintain this program and it be something that we all as a group can benefit from, and really just not have to be, I don't want to say forced, but feel threatened.
That's fair. That's fair.
So it really will come down to each and every one of us as a nation, as a whole, how this plays out. But the goal, like I said, is for our people to have the flexibility to assess themselves and really decide how do I want to contribute? Because at the end of the day, we're building something that it really does require a lot of work. But we also understand the economy is economy, so we want to be respectful of how people can pour. But thank you for that question. I'm sure many people are happy you asked that. And Mrs. Muhammad, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's me, Miss Campbell.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question is, because I know you said you're working on the reservation and then y'all could take outside investment. But what do we have in place to protect us just in case, let's say somebody is not on the up and up and they're like, well, you know what, I want to take it, or I want to be part of it. I want more access than we're allowed to have. What is in place to protect us from them taking it or doing some underhanded stuff?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. So right now, the way we're going to, so we're still building that specific part out. Right now, we only covering the tier because that's our inside, but we do need to work on how we're going to incorporate accepting external resources for the protection of the nation. But right now that is limited. We haven't gotten to that point yet. But
Okay.
we'll keep you guys posted, and that's why these tribal meetings are so important. So I'll note that and make sure that as soon as we have an answer, we'll bring that to another meeting. So thank you for asking that, Ms. Campbell.
Okay. You're welcome.
And Miss, okay. Oh, go ahead, Joshua. Hey, welcome. You have a question? Yes.
Hi, everyone. First of all, great questions. I really like the spirit in this group so far. It seems like everybody's really like paying attention and asking the right things. The next question I have is on a similar topic. Is there a point in time or a threshold of giving or a way to, at some point, right? Like the way I see it, like if we all, once things start getting to a point where they actually turn a profit and we have social enterprise and it's pouring back in the community, is there a certain point in time or a certain amount or a certain way to notify the tribe where we would like to have equity in these projects? And then earn, like not just be given a dividend. I know some tribes do that where they give a dividend, but we can earn our dividend over time through the equity, through the time, through actually notifying, hey, I'd like to work with you as a partner. And I know you guys have a lot of stuff available as far as like for-profit, tax-free business entities, stuff like that. So is there any discussion about that already, or is this something you guys have thought about? That's my question.
I love it. I love it. That's a good one. So right now, I'm happy that you asked that, because you actually made, I'm going to answer a previous question that was just asked. So these projects, so keep in mind that the tier contribution currently are going to be, you're going to be able to see, and that's what we're working on with our support team, is to develop the system where again, all those numbers that we talked about in this meeting, you're going to be able to see how much has been generated. So we want to make sure that you guys are staying informed. You'll see how we're doing as far as progress on these. You're not just going to be sending it and hope for the best. No, we're going to be making sure that you guys are informed when it comes to the marks that we have on these projects. So you're going to see for housing, for farm, for that, where it's going. And that's why it's important to moving forward. We're going to be very busy with our accounts. So make sure to be on. If you're rewatching this, make sure next time, if you weren't able to join, that you make sure you have access to your account, because a lot of information, that's one of the things that we are really working on, to make sure that you guys are informed and can see live time what's going on within the nation when it comes to your contribution. So those things will be available. When it comes to equity, we are hoping, so these projects that we're talking about, when it comes to the reservation, so I'm currently the active chief. However, one day I'm not going to be. So the system that we're developing is to make sure that even once I am not in place, that this still is for the community. So this isn't a me project. This isn't a my project. This isn't my family's project. This is our community. This is the government's project. So we will have, so that being said, that percentage will be, the way we're structuring it is we do want to make sure that tribal members are able to benefit long-term in the development. We haven't really mapped that out yet, but I think it's such an important question, because we do need to get to that point as well. So thank you for bringing that up and making sure that we understand that is important as well, so that we can, support our families long-term in our contributions. So thank you, Joshua.
And just a little tidbit, and I say that in an effort to create a culture, or to contribute to a culture where like the young people are even excited about like investing. It's like, I'm coming out of a world or an environment where I'm just being taxed. There's no clear delineation of like where my money's going or how it benefits me. But now it's like, it makes people excited to give. It's life in general. Now it's like, hey, I'm going into the world excited to give, because I know I can take care of me, but I can also take care of everybody else around me. So that's the spirit of that question too. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you guys for your questions. And I see we have one more hand. Go ahead, Ms. Gamble.
I'm sorry. You were talking about opening like an emergency room and like a birthing place, and I am expecting my fourth daughter, and the question is, how are y'all gonna implement like what people pay? Like, is it gonna be out of pocket and you go based off according to their income? How are people gonna be able to pay without feeling like that I might as well go back into the system and have them bill me and I'm paying the arm and a leg? Like, how is that gonna come about?
I love it. That's a great one. Well, that's where our contribution as a group will play a big role, because the goal is for our system to pay itself. So certain things, of course, we're going to have our costs, but the goal is maybe the government will be able to pay for certain parts of the bill for, let's say, for mothers who are expecting, and because we have that available. But right now, because we're in such a tight space, so much we have to do out of pocket. But the reality is to build a life where not just for yourself, but hopefully one day when your children start having children, that we are taking the steps to make sure that the generations that are coming behind us don't have to have these questions right? But we haven't decided yet how that's going to look, but more, of course, as we move forward, those things will be developed. But again, great question. Thank you so much for that. And we're definitely noting that, and we'll take that into consideration when we start to operate those facilities. And I think we have 2 more questions. JS, go ahead. I think you came up first.
I saw 2 people popped up that had also had questions. I don't want to take up theirs. I know I already asked one, but I do have another question. But
No. So it's not. So let me rephrase that. So it's not just one question per member. It's really, you can't ask more than one question during your time. So if you have another question after other people go and we still have time, you can get your question answered.
Okay, perfect. All right. So hold on. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right. So with in terms of like legal documentation for the Republic, so like marriage license and we have the driver's license, but just other official documents like that. Do we have that set up? Are we planning on doing that?
That's a good one, and we're going to answer that in a little bit, because again, the rules is questions related to current events, current meeting details. But yes is the answer, but I'll explain it once we take this last question from Mrs. AO. Go ahead, Irene.
Oh, okay, yes. How you doing? I just had a question about the land, the 30 acres. You said it's leased land. Is it a lease to own eventually, or is it just like we'll be leasing for a certain amount of years?
Good one. So it's land that is not able to be sold to outsiders. So it is tribal members' land, so part owners and different stuff, but it's land that basically has already been entrusted in the community. Well, not specifically with us, but it has been available where this land cannot be sold. So therefore, it just gives us an opportunity to kind of get things rolling. But the goal is to have more, as we continue with these projects. Because to talk about land, because that's another thing too. Everyone's like, oh, how do we get land? I don't think there's no lack of need to get land. Land is available. However, we need to start projecting and developing and seeing how to build communities and getting that part established. So that's why we're doing it with a lease, and we're not so much talking about raising money to buy land at this time, because people are sitting on a bunch of acres, but nothing's being done. So our goal is to use what we have. And right now that is something that is available to us, meaning that if we were to get the funds tomorrow for everything, we can move forward. So that just eliminates the some of the unnecessary stuff of just having to acquire. But the goal is, again, maybe recontract with them, but it definitely is a safe investment. And it also is an opportunity where we will be able to develop a program for Indigenous land. So as we do these things, we also have to incorporate how we're going to start securing land. So using property that we already have ownership over as a group or people, or some type of ownership, just makes it a lot easier for us to develop what is necessary for us to protect land. So, but we have to start, because again, everybody wants the land part, but no one understands the importance of not just having land where you have land, but it's entrusted in another jurisdiction. So we have to continue to develop systems where we are able to show that we have the deed under our jurisdiction, we have the control under our jurisdiction, and work those systems out with the other jurisdiction to be able to convert these land officially to native lands. But for now, it is a lease that we're going to have, but it's something like, it's kind of secure for the most part for us to just move forward on. So it's not a big concern. Right now is really just getting in motion and getting these things done. But great question for sure. I'm sure a lot of people are happy you asked that one. Go ahead, Ms. Almasi. I think this is the last one that for Jace. Go ahead.
Okay, a quick question about the Detroit houses. Do we have the infrastructure set up to go through the purchasing process with, do we have internal real estate or management company or houses that's already identified within the Detroit metropolitan area, or if it's within outside of Detroit? Where are we at with that process? And if there are tribal members that would be interested in coming on board to be partner with that, with the purchases of those two properties, would it be based on, what is the thoughts of when it comes to ownership of the properties when a tribal member come in and say if they came in and purchased one of the houses?
Okay, that's a good one. So the goal is for us to acquire properties together as a community, and then it would be divided by investors. So, you know, how many people are on a project will determine how the resources are split. Now, we haven't decided how we're going to break those up. Maybe, of course, we're going to have a limit on certain things when it comes to contributions, just so that those who invest can have a decent profit. So, but right now it's more so of an experimental project that we're doing to see how we can incorporate this, because Detroit is a growing market right now, even though, and there's still also a lot of funding that is available within the jurisdiction itself that we can use, but we will provide further details on what that would look like when it comes to if someone wants to come in and contribute directly and just say, okay, I just want to be a part of this, and how would this look when it comes to the breakdown on what I'll get back, what ownership would I have? Would I have ownership, or would I only be contributing for a percentage? But most likely when it comes to current project right now that we're working on, we're looking to have, let's say, an investor come in, or a tribal member in this case come in, and based on that entry, you'll get a percentage plus your return on what is made from your contribution. So we haven't talked about the percentage yet, but that's the goal, is for, you know, people who do decide to put their money in also know that they're going to be getting something back and not just pouring. So that's how those projects, again, test project, but the goal is for those to go successfully so we can expand upon what we're doing as a nation. And final question, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry. Okay, so I live in California. I don't know how many other citizens live in California, or kind of where everybody is kind of spread out. I know that there are, you know, I guess governmental representatives that would have to deal with the other jurisdiction. Is that you as the tribal chief as of right now that handles that, or do you have someone, or are you planning on having someone state to state that deals with the other jurisdiction, or what's the plan on that?
That's a good one. So yes, the goal is definitely to have other offices per se when it comes to. So keep in mind, when we say offices, we're talking almost like little embassies where we will give power over to that jurisdiction. Like, you know, you're still in the nation, but you're going to have some say so when it comes to that. However, the primary thing that we know of now is, and this is just from past experiences, before we expand into division, into like dividing everything, we have to have a good foundation, meaning that the nation itself needs to have the structure so that we can give those other departments what they need versus having to scrape for it, because it does create such a big conflict of interest once, you know, when things aren't already formed. So developing the headquarters, then giving embassy power over to those other jurisdictions within other states will be a lot smoother process, versus because a big issue that can arise is people are just not being served. And that's one of the things, like, we need to be able to train those departments. We need to be able to train those headquarters or those new locations versus just saying, oh, you guys pay this amount, now you just open a, no, that I've seen it done. Just to be honest, I've seen the chaos that comes from people not having the proper management, and it just creates a whole unnecessary mess. So focusing right now on getting the locations here, but definitely, I do know the people that are coming into the nation, people like yourself who are in the nation. You guys are definitely a game changer, and I know that you guys will do great. And I'm sure that's why you're asking, but I know people like yourself will do great in those roles. And we're definitely looking forward to positioning you guys to serve the community because, of course, the more boots on the ground in more states, the better. The quicker we'll roll. But and just to close with the question you had concerning services that are coming up, let me see if I can share my screen. Give me here. Share this tab. So we have a couple important, just confirm you guys that you can see this. So we've been doing, working on making sure you guys have access. So make sure that whenever you need to know what we have available, always click the service or all services when you come to Aboriginal Ministry. And keep in mind, certain services aren't available or viewed on the website, but as you mentioned, marriage procedure. So we do offer that. It hasn't been available yet, but we will be taking in where, people who want to be under our jurisdiction instead can do this. Now, keep in mind, however, one of the important things, and even though this is not concerning this current meeting, keep in mind that when it comes to marriage procedures, the goal is for us to be able to handle our own affair as a group. However, if we see, now keep in mind that these marriages will be under our jurisdiction. However, if we are not able to come to a resolution, let's say someone wants to separate, we can enforce the other jurisdiction, and we hope we don't have to. We can use the other jurisdiction to intervene for you guys to have a divorce. So even though the marriage is under us, if it seems, because again, the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of times people want, and I'm not saying you, but for the most part, people want to have systems where they feel they can get over on or don't be held responsible. So we don't want people to feel like, oh, I can get married here, but now this marriage didn't work out, so now I can just be irresponsible with my affairs and not be held accountable because I'm under a tribe. And that's not what we want. We want our people to be secure families, so we want to make sure that we are understanding the process and the requirements of these things. And again, this is not about systems being bad. This is about us as a group really just handling our own. We are wise enough to be able to coexist and live just like any other people and handle our own affairs, because that's what this comes down to, is us saying now, instead of other people telling us how this and this goes, we come together as a people and make these decisions for ourselves, which is our God-given right. But with that being said, there's many other services that are available, and we will be making this, I'm sure, before the end of this year, but I'm not sure. Like I said, we're working with a small team. So, but they should be having that up and running so you guys can have more details on different services that are available in the nation. And as of this, and important, even though this is not concerning this meeting, but we do have a tribal member who just mentioned she is expecting. So what's important to understand, those who have children in the nation, meaning that you acquired your status and you had a baby versus you joined the nation and you already had kids, there's two different processes to that. So birth reporting procedure is basically meaning that the child is of a Xi-Amaru parent, and you don't have to do the citizenship procedure itself, because we do have that child is already considered ours per se, right? Because you are in the nation. So that's why the citizenship procedure is not necessary per se, but you do need to report it so that we can document and make sure that the baby has the appropriate documentation to be able to properly be recognized within the nation as a native. So again, if you have children who you had before you went through your process, yes, they do have to complete the citizenship procedure, which is the same as an adult. However, if you're having a child after you've been in a nation, you just have to do a BERT reporting, and the fees are different than that. So yeah, but that pretty much concludes it. We're not going to have, and keep in mind, there are a lot of tribal members. We are working on our database. I forgot to say that. We are working on our database when it comes to really, and that's going to be coming up in the next meeting, is we're going to be doing a census. We're going to be talking about the census that is coming up. That's why we did the governing authority, because we want to make sure that the numbers of who we have in the nation are accurate, and so we know what we're working with. So by the end of by the end of January, we will start having a report on how many tribal members are in the nation, and the goal is to have that information available every year so that we can see the growth on where we're at in numbers. But that's pretty much conclusion to that. And that being said, I truly appreciate you guys taking your time. I know we went over time, but I feel like this was a very productive meeting, and we will see you guys again. Just to recap, we have projects coming up. We talked about ways that you will be also able to contribute. And again, we don't want anyone to feel pressure, but at the same time, please keep in mind that your contribution really does affect how much we can progress as a nation and within a certain period of time. It really does matter, because again, we need department development. We need so many things so that we can support ourselves as we participate in self-governing ourselves. It's not just about getting your paperwork. It's also, we need to have the response time to certain things when it comes to dealing with the other jurisdiction. And the only how we can do that is having the proper team in place. So the sooner we get these things in place, the better it'll be when it comes to making sure that we are protecting our rights correctly and having the people to pretty much just be there for us, because that's really what this comes down to, is having the proper support system is what would make the biggest difference when it comes to us exercising our rights, and having people who are educated and who take their time and who we pay to be educated to do this work. So that's really what this will come down to. But again, thank you guys so much, and I will see you at the next meeting. And again, if meeting details will be available, this meeting will be available for viewing next week. And if you are not getting email notifications, please subscribe by going to the website and putting in your email. It's really simple. We want to make sure that you guys are always informed. And that pretty much concludes it. If you guys have any personal questions, please schedule an appointment to reach out, and we will be here to serve you. Bye for now, everyone.